like these guys potentially. You might get one of these prototype or custom units that you build back for repair. So
Right.
how are you going to repair it? Well, what you're going to do is you can actually set up a repair job, okay? If we look at this, if we go into light manufacturing, and the menus have all been changed as well in this new one. So,
Okay, good.
so anyway, if you go into an item specification and we pull it up, you got this. I won't be more than 12 minutes.
I have 12 minutes.
Okay. Helps you know this when you talk to prospects, right?
Absolutely.
Every window first time is slow. Okay, so if we do the repair, okay, if you pull it up here, okay,
Yeah.
you'll notice that on this repair here, okay, we don't have anything but labor, okay? So what you're going to do is, when you go back to that sales order, this should be quick now. When you go back to that sales order and you enter that part, okay, it's going to, if we go to the inventory item, when you set it up, you can, but it's not mandatory. You could have just like a very generic repair order, right? But in this one, what you do is you set up this item and you identify it as a repair item, okay? Because the system will then know there's some things you do. And you basically say, what's the item that I'm going to repair? So this item that I'm going to sell the customer is actually to repair this item.
Right.
So when I go here and I key this item in, it brings all this back. And then it also brings back that we've got an ELE comp 2, okay? So when I go to the work order, what I do is, see here, it also knows that this is a for repair as well, okay? Now, if I go out to the work order here, what I'm going to need for the work order is I'm going to need one unit come in here, right? And it's a serialized unit. So I have to go to the line details, and I'm going to receive at the back door somewhere in my organization this unit for repair.
Right.
I put in the serial number, and because this serial number's already gone through my system, I append the serial number with some notation that tells me it's for a work order, right? So it's probably the serial number and the work order. That way I can bring the customer's thing into my inventory at a zero value. And then when I complete the work order, it goes back out of my inventory and I'm finished my job, right?
Good.
But it's going to run through the inventory, right? But it's going to be a zero value. It's going to be a zero transaction. You're not going to buy or sell. But what you've got to do is you've got to get it in and get it on here. Now, you can put all the other things on the kit assembly or on the work order that you need in order to do it. You can go through and do that. And it'll process just like a regular work order, right? But we identify it as this repair job, okay? I think there's actually even a field here that says repair or something, I think. You have to get that organized. But we create a dedicated work order for this item, and we're smart enough to know. I guess what we do is we just do that. But if you want, you can change it to repair anything, right? But the interesting thing about this, say you're in the business of repairing hydraulic cylinders, right?
Yep.
And you put in a RR, an RPR dash your part number, right? Mm-hmm. Then what happens is you can have the seal kit. Because when you repair a cylinder and you open a cylinder, you change every seal in it, right? Or when you do a transmission, you have a gasket set. Or when you do any kind of repair, you've got a recalibration operation on anything electronic, right?
Right.
You can actually put that on the kit specification for this item. So when you create the work order, right, it's already got that stuff on it. Now, you might not use it all. You might just say, well, I'm going to use 0 of labor. Well, that's fine. You can use 0 of labor. But you may have all these consumable items that you might use or might not use. So this, I believe, could potentially be a nice feature for DES
Yes.
when they bring their units in to repair them. So anyway, that's that particular thing. Let's go on to the demo that I was thinking on doing. If we go back into light manufacturing, go to production orders. I'm trying to think which one it was here. I think it was this planned one here. So if I go in here, you'll notice in here, I basically brought an item in. And when I brought the item in, it was just these three. So
Yep.
it was just these three. And then I decided that the customer wants something unique for this. It's for this sales order, right?
Yep.
So the customer wants something unique. So what I did is I actually did this. I have an item in my item master for custom prototype work. And I added that item to here. But it's a manufactured item. So
Cool.
it has custom prototype work on it, right?
Yep.
So if I go here, I can look to the work order, right? If I go to the work order, all right, I've got notes, right, that somebody's put on here. And all this can be developed during the quotation process. The notes are, this is a pivot arm that will fit on to the left-hand accessory of our 15-3345 laser unit. It will hold a thermal camera, right? And then here's the thermal camera. And it is a placeholder item because I haven't decided what it is yet, right?
Right.
So the notes are on it. It says initial thoughts are this is an FLR thermal camera right here, right? And then what I've got is I've got a data sheet on that item. The guy designing the product could put a data sheet on that item right there. Okay. Now imagine you're the purchasing guy and the engineers have done something. Now you've got to, now you've got to buy it. So now the purchasing agent can actually create a part number for that and buy it. They've got enough information and then change that for this item. Okay. And I can even put my cost in and then my costs are rolling up as I do things, right? So you look at my costs are very high because this particular item is $9,000, right? And I've got my vendor. I can ultimately put a vendor in here and everything I want, right? And it's when I decide how many I want and what I'm going to buy, I do that. When I go to my material, okay, I've added things here like, okay, for them, what have I got? Well, I've got some CAD CAM labor, right? If I go to my files, somebody's going to have to basically design the pivot arm, right? Okay. So somebody designed the pivot arm and then there was CAD CAM in there. And out of CAD CAM came G code, which out of your CAD program may become G code. Okay. So there we go. Okay. Well, there we know. If we have to build it again, we've got the G code, right? Right there to build it again. If we load the machine with the same material and the same fixture, load the G code and away we go. And I've got my original drawing for my parametric design software that's right there. So in the environment where you're prototyping, and you're doing a lot of this, as I worked in these, having as-built information, all accessible. Because generally, I'll tell you, in most organizations that are under $5 million, that's an all-day job to get that information that I just showed you. I guarantee you it's an all-day job. Because you got to go to 10 different people.
Right.
But 10 different people can all work on the work order and get their work done, right?
That's the benefit.
So we can do that. And you can actually put things in here. You can actually put tooling in if you want. Here's tooling. If I look at this, this is actually, I figure this job is going to consume some end mills, right? And so I've got these end mills that it's going to consume. So you may have special tooling in a machine shop that you're going to buy for a one-off job that you want to do that. So here's a custom end mill, and these guys in this shop will know what this is. This is the Kennametal end mill. Anybody who's got a 5-axis milling center is going to do that. And then so we've got design labor here, and then we've got labor on the machine. Well, here's our big Heller CP 4000 5-axis milling machine, my big Swiss milling machine. Like this is like the Duesenberg of milling machines, man.
Cool.
It's like I mean, anybody who runs a 5-axis milling machine drools when they hear the name Heller, right? They're a big German company that makes them. So anyway, but I can put anything I want on here. So I can put my machining stuff in, and just as easily, I can import a template. If I want a template for a specific type of machining and everything, I don't have to run around and search for everything, right? I can put in my template, okay, and I can load all of these labor operations that I may have. Now, you'll notice they're all 0 here, but I may have some TIG welding, right, that I want to do. So, I may put the TIG welding in. I may want to count for shop overhead. All these things I can bring in with a template. So I can quickly get to a number, right? I mean, if I put, this is at $125, right? If I put 40 hours of welding per item in here, right? Look what it's done to my price on my job. Well, it just exploded, right?
Sure.
Right away, I'm getting instant feedback on what's happening here when I'm doing my quote.
This is wonderful.
This is a product, Jim, for engineer to order. Everything that you have in a job shop, okay?
Yep.
But it's also the added functionality of, and there's one more element to this that's a development project, and I'll talk about that later, but it's got the added functionality of keeping all that information together, right? The information that people are sourcing in one place and are sourcing in another, although you can do that in job shop. Job shop is generally a drawing, and then you go and you say, well, what am I going to consume, right? And you'll just go out here to your materials and you'll say, okay, I'm gonna assume some 2.5-inch plate, right?
Yep.
And I'm going to consume 0.7 square feet of it, so my cost is $69 a square foot for that material. So I'm going to consume that, and then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to consume some labor, and then I'm going to record the labor. Okay. In job shop, a couple of other things that may be different are the customer quantity that you have. So if we go back to the work order in job shop, if you go to a sales order,
you might buy 10 of the same thing.
Right. Well, what happens is you're going to do a job. A customer gives you a drawing, right?
Yeah.
And they say that I want 10 of these. Okay, this is a repair. Forget it. But right. Let's say it's some part, and it just says, if I go here and I just go custom job, custom fabrication, right? So we're just going to do some custom fabrication. I'm going to do one job, right? Okay, I'll save that. Now on that job, and this is job shop, not so much engineering, because engineering, you're kind of doing one-offs for engineering. Job shop, you're doing custom work, but potentially more than one of them. So if my customer gets an invoice for custom fab, he's going to say, what the hell is that for? The lady in his office is going to come out and say, what's a custom fab? I don't have a PO with custom fab on it, right? But what you can do is you can go to here and you can go out and you can now put what the customer SKU is. Okay? And how many did the customer want? The customer wanted 45, and they were eaches. So now this is going to print on the invoice. Okay, it's going to be custom work for quantity of 45 KKK-45s, right?
Yeah.
And it will give a custom code cost per unit. The customer is going to want to know a cost per unit, not a cost for the job, right? So it's going to be able to give them that.
But this is wonderful. But again, the distinction between in your definitions.
In engineer to order?
Yeah.
The distinction, okay. What's really going to make it distinct is the ability to bill before you finish it. You're going to be able to, I'm thinking through a scenario where you're going to be able to do an intermittent building, because if you're somebody developing
and that's in
something,
the engineer to order environment, correct? So it's
in an
one
engineer to order
commonplace
environment.
All right, so good. Now,
So imagine you've got a big project to design and build a water treatment facility, right? And it's going to take you 8 months. Well, a lot of guys that are under $5 million are not going to be one out of pocket 8 months, right?
Right.
They're going to want to be paid for certain things, right? And where that's going to cut in is we're going to have milestones in the schedule. When you reach a milestone, you'll be able to bill a certain amount, and it might be to
could
bill
include
the
a down
labor
payment. Is that correct? It could turn like 20% down. That could be the
yeah.
first
You
milestone.
could. Well, I haven't quite figured it all out, but you could put 20% down. But say you wanted to bill them for the labor to date, right?
Right.
Well, then you could do that, right? With pushing stuff around, exist as a I guess you know what? I think Vlad incorporated it in the code, so it's no longer an option. Oh yeah, right. Here it is. It's FlexMFG ETO, and in there, that's where you get the functionality for placeholders. And
thank you.
Some of the fields open up, and you can enter costing in places where normally you would be restricted to a internal cost from the system.